admit. Oh, I think I can do this.
Who's going to be the first one to drop the F-bomb?
I believe in you, Eva.
It's not a race, Paul.
I thought it was going to be my daughter's first word.
I think it is. Oh, really? Yeah.
Wait, it wasn't her first word?
No, it might have been her 10th or 20th. I was on the island and I got a voicemail about chicken pot pie or something. I saved it.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, thank you, TikTok.
I'm just thankful my kids are homeschooled because I'm pretty sure they would both be expelled by now.
Yeah, we were at a stop sign and my 2-year-old like said their first curse word and I was like, okay, something has to change.
And it's not
I
me.
was also proud. I was also like secretly because it's hilarious. But yeah.
Oh yeah, the appropriateness of her swearing is like spot
Right,
on
timing
in the
is
use of the
on.
language. Like
It's
that
everything.
alone does not just go, yes, I get it.
So the rule in our house is as long as you use it appropriately, it flies. So
Grammatically correct and everything. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that.
and then you just got to know your audience. So if grandparents are around, probably shouldn't use them. But
Yeah,
Other
because
than
they
that,
don't
it's all
get in
good.
trouble. Mom and dad do.
Yeah.
All righty. Welcome everyone to the parents panel, the AEM RSA Medical Student Mondays panel. Help. Sorry, it's been a long day. Here we're going to talk to a bunch of parents on how they parent and med student at the same time. We're going to go around the room of panelists and we're all going to introduce ourselves, let you know where we go to school, what year we're in, kiddos, how many, ages, stuff like that. And then we'll begin. If you have any questions at any time, please feel free to put them in the chat. There are no polls, so don't worry, you're not getting quizzed on this. And let's begin. Paul, I'm going to throw it out to you. Would you like to
Sure.
introduce yourself?
So my name is Paul Filiu, St. George's University, just finished waiting on my diploma to arrive via mail in the match this year for emergency medicine, fingers crossed. And I have 4 children. They range in age from my youngest is 8, my oldest is 23, 2 boys, 2 girls. I had 2 in college while I was going through school, and my youngest was just starting kindergarten. So that's what I got.
Thank you, Paul. Kirsty, would you like to go next?
Yes, and I hope there's no loud noises, but I'm like in the city, there's a kid that could scream, but everything's good. So yeah, I'm Kirsty. I am also 4th year, or I'm in the match also, and I'm a 4th year at Western University, so that's a CO school. I'm hoping to match emergency medicine, so it's a really exciting time. And I have a 2.5-year-old, and I have her between my 2nd and my 3rd year. And I actually took a year off. So if there's any questions regarding that, let me know. Is that everything? Or was I missing something?
I think that was everything.
Sweet. Happy to be here.
Way to go. Ashley, you're next.
Hi, I'm Ashley. I went to St. George's University. I finished my clinicals in July. I'm currently in the match process and also finishing my MPH through St. George's University as well. I have 2 kids, 7-year-old twin boys. They were almost 3 when I started. So I had my kids before medical school. I guess the only extra thing I can add is I actually have a child with special needs. He has Down syndrome. So if anybody has questions about having a child with special needs while going through medical school, I can help with that.
Thank you so much, Ashley. All righty. Oh, yeah, me. Sorry, I'm Ava. I'm a med student at St. George's University. I have a 5-month-old sweet potato. He runs my life. I'm always losing every argument. And I had him in med school. I took about a year off to take step and have a child. And yeah, now I'm doing rotations while breastfeeding and trying to stay sane. Alrighty, so let's begin. If anyone has any questions, yet again, please feel free to put them in the chat. First question, definitely directed at Paul. how do you navigate telling your hospital you're rotating at that you're pregnant? And is it necessary to do so? Okay, so not Paul, everyone but Paul. But you can also tell them if your significant other is pregnant. So
All right, I'll take off my student hat for a second and put on my hospital administrator hat. You don't ever have to tell anyone that you are pregnant. That is for you and you alone. If you choose to, that's your choice. You can't be discriminated against for it. And if you are, just be cognizant and reach out. Places are a lot different than they were 20 years ago when I first started. I'm old, by the way, just so you know. That being said, yeah, that's a discussion that you have to really do some soul searching on. And I'm going to turn it over to the moms because I'm just going to step back.
Yes, please. So I'll jump in, and that was the car alarm in the background. So remember the question? Oh yeah. I didn't really have the experience of having to tell anyone hospital like that I was pregnant because of the fact that I got. There are really good resources at your guys' schools that you can utilize and reach out to like support people to even troubleshoot those questions, and like why you're asking it might be for different reasons. Certain things like x-ray exposure, different things, maybe you'll have to take certain days off. So as long as you have your school, I guess, on your side about it, I feel like you can get excused from certain days if you need to, things like that, if that's a concern. So that's the only thing I wanted to chime in, that like you can find those support people before telling kind of a total stranger that you're pregnant.
All right, so I had my kids before medical school, so I didn't have to worry about telling anybody. But again, like Paul said, you don't have to tell them. So if you don't want to, or if you don't need time off or any special accommodations, then just don't say anything. As a mom, I usually didn't say anything about even having during my rotations, unless I people who did, and we shared that in common. So really, you just keep it to yourself unless you need special accommodations.
So I outed myself because I needed to take a leave of absence. Between myself and my family, we decided it would be the best course of action, especially because taking step was rough while pregnant. So I figured starting rotations while pregnant would be difficult too, considering I'd never been pregnant before. So with that leave of absence, I had to work through administration and work through guidance of the school, and they were supportive. But getting back in after a leave of absence was a little bit of a struggle. A lot more administrative work than I expected, but it's doable. But for something I told them more often was that I'm breastfeeding, and we'll get into that in a later question. I know Paul knows everything about that.
Did you talk to Sarah? Did you know?
Well, you're a pro at this point with 4 kiddos.
Yeah.
So with the next question, thank you, panelists. How do you manage mom guilt? Wow, managing. Whew. I can honestly say I have not managed it yet.
I'll jump in, and we'll do parent guilt if we'll be inclusive. But there definitely is also like gender aspects to it. I feel like if my husband takes my kid to the park, some people compliment him on like spending time with the child, things like this. So I feel like part of that is built into like societal pressures, and I definitely took a while to get past some of it. I don't think we'll ever get past any of it, especially if it's like your first kid, because you just think you're doing wrong all the time, even if you're fine. Because I realize that. I think that one thing that helped me a lot is another mom told me once. She was like, people are going to tell you medical school gonna judge you either way, so why worry about it? Because the only one that needs to worry is like you and maybe your immediate family. And I'm not talking grandparents, I'm talking immediate family, because I've gotten like comments from as well. So like I would just let it go as best you can, because as long as you're showing up and trying to do your best and making sure if you have a partner that they're on board, and yeah, so you can't be more than your best. So like try to be kind to yourself, I would say. And children just, they don't know stuff. So if they're being a jerk, it's not because like you're in medical school. I've also made that connection falsely. They're just crazy sometimes. So yeah.
So for me, I had more personal guilt than any guilt put on me by family or anybody else. So it was really hard to deal with that, because you're right, society says that as moms, we are supposed to be the ones taking them to the park and not their dads. And my husband is a stay-at-home dad, so that was a whole new territory. But a lot of it is just personal guilt and trying to struggle with yourself. And I just had to remind myself that while I am doing this for me, I'm also ultimately doing it for them, and that this is just temporary, and in the long run it will be worth it. I was also very just honest and open with my kids. If I was feeling guilty, I would tell them that I was feeling guilty and I felt like I needed to spend more time with them, and just let them know how I was feeling, ask them how they were feeling. And most of the time kids are honest in their understanding, and they'll tell you that it's okay and that you're doing a good job, and they help take away a lot of that guilt. So if you have kids that are old enough to understand, I would recommend just talking to them openly about it.
I came from it from a different background, having been deployed previously with the military and having been away from home. In fact, my second daughter was born while I was on active duty. The the thing I learned in medical school before I even started was that medical school is a selfish thing. And it's selfish regardless of whether you're a parent or anything else, because for that 4 years, everything is about you attaining this goal that you want to attain. My children, when they were the littlest, have no recollection before the age of 4 or 5. So it's not anything that they're giving to you or anything like that. So the biggest thing is you love your kids. If you're lucky enough to have a partner, that is beautiful. If you're not, it's okay. You can figure it out. It's completely doable. I have friends on both sides. And yeah, the roles of parenting, moms and dads, it gets blurred. I think it's better now than it was when I first became a dad sometime in the dark ages. But well, it was last millennia. My oldest one was born in 98. But I think that's the normal thing. Well, congratulations, you're human, and it's okay. Talk to friends, find your support group, find your tribe, find your people. Avo and I were on the island together. Ashley and I were on rotation together, and you do find your people, and you have someone else who's going through similar or went through it, and you vent a little bit and you go, what the hell? I hate this shit. And then you move forward, and everyone goes, yep, this shit sucks. Keep going. So that's all I got.
Thank you. Everything you all have said is wonderful. And I am going to make the connection with Kirsty. I was sitting at a conference, didn't know anybody, and 6 months pregnant, and did not know what I was going to do. And she's like, oh, I got a kid. I'm like, teach me your ways, Yoda. So that's how we hit it off. So the connections all across the panelists. Thank you all for your responses. Just to echo support. Support is the number one thing in any form. If you gotta buy it, buy it. But yeah, you need support. I don't know how you can do this without any, even if it's as simple as, getting takeout every now and then. I consider that support. Uber Eats is wonderful. The next question is, how do you make it work? I'm going to go with support, but if anybody else wants to take it from there. Feel free.
I think making it work is it's going to be this very personalized experience. There is no cookie cutter that is what worked for me is going to work for you. Like I said earlier, if you have a partner and a supportive partner, my God, you are so lucky. And if you don't, you're still lucky. You're going to be fine. For me, it's always been about planning. When I was home, when we came home for COVID and we were virtual and I was home and I was taking care of the house and doing the schoolwork. When you're doing your schoolwork, do your schoolwork and be focused on that and be efficient. And then when you're home, be present. You have to, for me, I had to compartmentalize. When I was home and it was time to put on my dad hat and put on my husband hat, then I had to put school away for a couple of hours. And that's how it worked for me. And then just scheduling everything, having a backup plan to the backup plan. Children do things like get ill. Children do things like get injured. Children do things like clog the toilet, break stuff, tear hinges off the wall, swallow things they're not supposed to. And those are going to happen at the most inconvenient time. But if you've thought ahead and said, okay, who's my backup if I have an exam? Who's my backup if I need to study? Babysitter, whatever, the neighbor across the hall, whoever you can find that you trust with to observe your child as they're growing and breaking stuff. That's about it.
So for me, when you said that, I really just drew a blank because I look back and I go, how did we make it work? Most days were a blur. You have a plan and then usually that plan goes right down the drain. So for me, we wung it. Every day was a new day. You just tackle that day and you hope to make it to the end, and tomorrow is a fresh chance to try again. And for me, I found out pretty quickly that I could not study at home. They knew exactly when I was home, even if they hadn't seen me. I don't know, maybe they could smell me like a dog or something. I'm not sure, but they would find me. So studying was done on campus at a library somewhere else. And when I came home, there was no studying that was going to happen there. So I just tried to have two very separate environments, and it made us all much happier.
Yeah, so I like, even just being a panelist, it makes me happy to hear these things because so many things you guys are saying like resonates with me and my experience as well. It's like we are really lucky and it's been really crazy and I don't really remember how we did it some days. And like I am lucky enough to have a partner, and I feel like it's really hard, and med school is really hard on your partner as well. And like the one of the things that helped us was like getting the idea out of our heads that it should be easier. Because if you start thinking that, you automatically think like you're doing something wrong. And sometimes it's just hard and it just sucks. And you just have to be like, get through it. And sometimes like you're going to want to sleep because you have something important the next day. And the kid just like threw up on themselves, literally like air, and it came back. And so there's like all hands on deck things to do. And it's like 3 a.m. And so that's fun. But I think once you stop thinking about that, there's like room to just think about other things that are more positive. I don't really know what I was going to say. Also, if you guys are like me and like, I don't have a lot of family in the area, so we had to find other support systems. Urban Sitter was one of the greatest apps I've learned about. You can find really last minute help for like babysitting, things like that. And yeah, so that's been really great. And our daycare never really shut during COVID, so it was also really great. So different things. Yeah.
Thank you, panelists. Those are all great suggestions. I'm gonna write some of them down, just ignore the frantic scribbling. So
yeah,
for the
put the app in the chat.
Thank you. Then I don't need to scribble as frantically. The next question is how to address pregnancy or parenthood during residency interviews. I'm
Oh.
not gonna say anything on this one because I didn't do it yet.
Don't. It's not any of their business. It's the same as a job interview anywhere else. It is nobody's business what your situation is. The same as if you're LGBTQ plus, it doesn't matter. Two of my children are. Who knows what the youngest will be? I don't know. Doesn't matter. It is nobody's business. And now that we're virtual for interviews, it's even easier, because the old trick that we used to use when we interviewed people is we'd walk you to your car, because it took us about a half a moment to look at your car and see your child's seat, baby on board, look at all this. I mean, you sit in my car, you're going to get crackerjack ass, because it's just like a mess. I live in it. My child lives in it. There's probably a couple years worth of caked on formula, and we haven't had formula in years. It is nobody's business. That's my feeling.
So I was nervous about this before I even had a kid, which makes it sound so much creepier, because like even when my kid was still like hypothetical, I had thought about that because I knew I was going to have a kid in med school, and I didn't know if that was going to be like, I don't know, two things happen with the trauma that is medical school, I think. One is you think everything's your fault and you're wrong, like, or it's to some degree. And I feel like the other is you're like searching for control, because the whole like getting hit with knowledge all the time, you're just like trying to like stumble. So like both of those things just kind of fly out the window. And it's better when you can let go of them. Not that I have completely or successfully, but I think in my experience on residency interviews, a lot of them didn't care. I did have to write, why did I take a year off? So I found with my mentors, the way to do it was mentioning the family, but also I mentioned other things I did. Like I started a parents group in that year because I didn't have support around me. I also learned how to be like a crisis counselor, like just things that like make you excited about taking that year off, because it shouldn't be something you're ashamed of. But at the same time, I can understand the fear. I think I got mixed stuff on interviews. So it was like one person even was like kind of led into it, and I mentioned it and they're like, oh, good, now I can ask about it. But it wasn't in a way of like they were trying to trap me, because they also wanted to talk about them having a kid. So it felt like more of a connection. At the same time, if you don't feel comfortable with that, talk to your mentors or advisors on like how to talk about that. But I always had a positive experience when it got somehow discussed, because it was on my application. And that's also one of the nice things with EM, I feel, because it's not as judgy. I feel like there's people all across the spectrum of different experiences, and they're kind of accepting in my experience. But also there were entire interviews where it never came up, nor should it. So I don't know if that kind of contradicts what was just said, but yeah, it kind of.
I think it's a very personal thing. I agree with you, Kirsty.
Mhm.
And it
Yeah.
came up during some of my interviews. I just think that it's not something that you have to
Agreed.
rush out to give.
Exactly.
You know, it came up in mine because I was looking, like I'd ask things like, what kind of school districts are there in this area? And, you know, the standard
Yeah.
questions, like, you know, can my kid go to school and learn their ABCs?
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, there was one that had like an on-site daycare that opened at 6 a.m. and you could see my face. I was like, what's that? Like I got really excited.
So I agree with what they both said. You don't have to tell them. And I actually think it's illegal for them to, if I'm correct, yeah, they're not allowed to ask you if you have any children. But I will also say, if you are in a unique situation like I am with a child that has special needs, and he also has a complex medical history, he had cancer as a baby. So he is part of my reason why I went to medical school. And at first I didn't want to bring up that I had children because I didn't want them to hold that against me. But I was actually told by some advisors to use it to my benefit, because it is one of the reasons why I was going. So if you have a situation like that, I would you to bring it up. However, it's also going to raise a red flag. And I did have one interview and ask me about if he were to get sick again, what is my plan? And they wanted to let me know that they were very supportive of allowing their if you have sick children. But if I just want you to be ready to tackle something like that and make it very apparent that you have support and you do have a plan. Like I told them that if he were to ever get sick again, my husband's a stay-at-home dad and he's going to take care of the situation. If you have a partner, family members, friends, anybody that you can count on, just kind of also loop them in. So the residency program doesn't have to worry about you taking extended leave because you have children. But yeah, I used it to my advantage. Just gauge your own situation and you decide if it will work for you or if it won't, but you do not have to feel obligated to tell them.
Thank you. Yes, it is illegal to ask, at least in the United States. I don't know where else y'all are going, but thank you for those responses. I have to also echo that uniqueness. Every situation's different and you just got to make decisions for you and your family. What leave options were there as med students? I took leave as a person studying for step 1. I think that's what I was. I took leave because it was very hard to study during my first trimester, fun fact of the day. So that was difficult. And then it was my first pregnancy, didn't know how things were gonna go. We had a leave of absence. It's the same that you would take for sick leave or taking a term off or a year off. The only requirement was that I think this was I don't know if this is a school or an overall med school requirement, but I had to start clinical rotations within 3.5 years of starting medical school, which I did that in time. But that was a school, I'm not sure if it's every school requirement, but it's definitely an SGU requirement. So you need to be cognizant of your timelines and your academic timelines as well as your personal timelines. But leave of absence, just bear in mind, you're gonna have to explain it everywhere you go, every time for the rest of your life. When you go to a new state and you wanna get licensed there, you have to explain that you took a leave of absence in med school and why. Yay.
I didn't know that. I'm just gonna jump in because I did something similar. I also studied for STEP, well, more so while like after having the baby, but also while pregnant. And like I had heard early on about people being like, yeah, this person had a baby on a Saturday and was in class on Monday and so hardcore. And I knew when I heard that was not for me. I'm like really happy that there are people that can do that. And I'm really happy for them that they're fierce and awesome. I didn't feel any less than, but have no shame if that's not for you. I feel like we put so much towards this goal that like, I knew if I had started rotations and had this first kid and studying for STEP, something was going to suffer. And all of those things were so important to me that, and I knew I couldn't handle it. So for me, I chose that. But the nice thing is even before I had the kids, somebody had told me like, this is my friend who did like 2 months and I did a year. We don't care. It's like up to that person. So don't feel like bad if you want to go sooner or anything. When I, early in my pregnancy, I reached out to the clinical rotations department and they were kind of like, there's always one, come on down. We know this whole thing. Like they're very familiar with the situation. And they were kind of like, you can either take no time off or you can take 3 months off. And so I said, I'm going to take 3 months off. But then I kind of knew that like, okay, I actually wanted to take a year. So if you guys want to like, first take a leave of absence, see how it fits, that's cool too. But they told me early on that like, if you need to extend that, then you're going to graduate either off cycle or on the next cycle. And there are advantages and disadvantages to doing both of those. So one of those things is like, if there's a huge training gap, residencies may ask, and I was told this from a program director, like, what is the issue? Meaning like, if you graduate 6 to 10 months before starting residency, they may have that question. And there are ways to deal with that. So educate yourself on those things with the off cycle option. So I chose the like graduating with the class below me. And so I was happy with that. I did that. Also, depending on how your guys' infrastructure is around clinical rotations, if you're like, ours is preset for the year. So if you do off cycle, you would have to do like a monthly, like last minute, now I know where I'm going next month thing. which is not so different than some of us have experienced anyways. But there are little things, but people, especially at my school, they were very supportive. And like they even moved mountains for me to like be able to stay in commuting distance. So I feel like having the school on my side has been a really good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you're a dad and you want to take time off, do it. Like, there's always the pressure of like, oh, your job was over the minute you made your deposit. Like, no, it's not. You don't stop being a dad. And if you are the couple who are both in medical school and have a child, a lot of us planned, and sometimes we didn't plan, and we have a baby. You can do it. You can bridge gaps. I have friends that are married in school and going through this on both sides. If you split your leave, one takes 90 days, one takes 90 days, that covers you for the first 6 months. If you are able to, do it. If you don't, but you don't have to. It's all personalized. But I was glad I stayed home with my first for a little while and took some of that role. And even as a worker, I stayed home. I took my full 6 weeks and stayed home as a dad, just to help, just to be there as part of it, because there's so much. Look, I'm not a girl, I obviously, right? But when babies are born, all of us are med students. We know all of the things that have to happen over the next 6 to 8 weeks in terms of healing, and things get ripped and things get torn and things get sutured and things get stretched. And then there's all those things that, what are they called? Hormones. Like my wife literally spilled a cup of ice, and that was it. We were crying. Not me. I was like, oh, what do I do? Because I don't know. And just be there. It's okay. So my 2 cents. If you're a dad and you get to take the chance, do it. You only get to do it once.
And I want to just jump back in and echo that the hormone thing is so true. I was mid crosswalk.
Oh my God, yes.
Didn't fill out an insurance form, broke down, and I'm not a crier. Like, I just like, it is a thing, and there are resources out for you. Like, if you need to talk to somebody, not a bad thing. But yeah.
About the hormones thing, I hate them. I still hate them. Progesterone, progestation, anti-mom. I had a touch of postpartum depression afterwards, and I was super thankful that my husband was home to help. He did take time off. Did I tell my primary care physician or my OBGYN that I was going through that? Hell no. But don't do as I do, be better. But it was really, my coffee maker broke and I was crying all day. That was the level we were at. So those hormones are real. Postpartum blues, depression, they're real. Get help if you need it. And the help and the support I needed was my husband home, and it worked out for the better. I was able to get through it with his support. So don't be afraid to get help where you need it. These hormones suck.
I think I can echo. I cried a lot, but having twins, the first year was kind of a blur. I don't remember. I know I didn't sleep much. I pumped a lot. I'm not sure what else happened, but I'm assuming I cried. But yeah, for a leave of absence, I did take a leave of absence in medical school. It wasn't involving my children or the birth of a child, but just be aware of your school's policy. So I believe SGU, if it's 3 months or less, like there's not a whole lot of paperwork that you have to do, but be prepared to explain any sort of leave of absence. But again, in all of my interviews, it only came up once, and it was pretty easy to answer, and they accepted the answer, and I wasn't really grilled about it. So if you need a leave of absence for any reason, your health, your mental health, your well-being always comes first before medical school. So if you need that leave of absence, go ahead and take it, whether it's 3 months, a year, whatever it is. Just be aware of your school's policy and try to work with them.
All good points. Thank you, everyone. On to the next question, now that we've all aired out our inner demons. How much time was factored? We touched on that. Never mind. What do you do when your kid is sick?
So I'll jump in. And then sometimes I'll answer these questions, and at the end I'll be like, what's the question? Did I answer the question? So before I forget, I just wanted to say, with the leave of absence thing, and this might be kind of controversial, but like, I had a friend that had a pretty big red flag. She is a single mom with 2 kids, and she actually like paid one of those services to help like edit her personal statement, because it was all about the story, and like it was part of being like that with the kids and stuff. So if you guys are considering like, okay, how do I tell my story? How do I bring my kids into it? There are like even professionals that you can reach out to. And I didn't do it. I was almost jealous at some point I didn't do it, but at the same time, it really worked for her. She got EM interviews, and like, so that worked for her story. So if there's some stuff going on and you don't really know, there are people that are making money off 4th year students trying to get by and figure this out. So yeah, that's just a thought. What was it? Oh, sick. Yes. Most places have been really understanding. Also, again, I always go through the school if I need to, which can cause like kind of more paperwork or more things you have to do, which is kind of annoying. But then it's very like no questions asked. But a lot of times, like when you're on rotation or something, you can deal with that, and they want you to deal with that. Especially I feel like with COVID, they don't want you coming in bringing sickness as much as it used to be. But yeah, I've had a lot of understanding people. And also when I was on away rotations, if that's really more of your focus, my husband really had to step up, or my urban sitter nanny really had to step up and help me in those situations, because I didn't want to take much time off then. So you kind of have to ask yourself, like, what is the rotation and how do I deal with it? Luckily, my kid was never so sick where I've just like dropped everything and had to go. But yeah, that is where we're at.
So for your first 2 years, if it's anything like SGU was, where you have attendance that you have to be aware of, I saved all of my attendance days. I went to class even if I felt like I was on my deathbed, because I saved them for the days that my kids might need me. Or I actually took them more for like mental health days instead of when I was actually sick. It seemed to work out better. So definitely do that if you have an attendance policy. I just try to save a couple for your kids. In rotations, like she said, everybody was really understanding. If I had a sick kid, they didn't want me to come in. They all felt like that should be my first priority. But of course, you're just talking about a day or two, not an extended period of time. So just talk to your attendings and try to work it out with them. They're usually pretty understanding.
I kind of got lucky because I got sent 2,000 miles away for my rotations, and my wife stayed home. But we had a very strong family. My parents live half a mile around the corner. My ex-wife lives a half a mile the other way. My sister's a half a mile the third direction. And so we have all these people. So if you have a community, that's fantastic. And if you don't, find your community, pay them, find them, buy them. But always be prepared to take time if you need to. That's not going to change whether you're a student or whether you're an employee as a healthcare provider. I worked in medicine for years before I went to medical school, and I would be at the ER and my child would get hurt or my child would get sick. And it's kind of like, well, I'm literally in the ER and I'm going to leave and try and go home. And there's the guilt of you got to call somebody in or you got to do these other things. That's never going to change. So you do what you need to do. That's it.
So I kind of want to add to the find your community. Look for other medical students that have kids, because their spouses are also going to be willing to help you out. So a lot of the times our babysitters were significant others of medical students. So yeah, definitely find that community as soon as you can and build close friendships, and they usually have your back.
I'm going to chime in again because I always have scattered thoughts. Also, if you have your friends group before you're pregnant, like I did, they stay your friends. and like I would have to come to campus for like a lunch thing that I was running some panel, which is awesome. And I would bring my kid, and my friends would show up and like hang out with my kid while I did my thing. So like little things when you need, like when you're alone, sometimes like 15 minutes, you're like, okay, it's not ethical to like leave my child like in this other room. So like little things when you're not like, okay, this is like putting a longer stress on someone, they can also be for kids, like the kids that don't have kids, I guess.
This whole process really takes a village, like 100% takes a village, whether it's your village by blood, by choosing, by monetary funding, it doesn't matter. This whole process takes a village. I didn't know that till I needed a village. But yeah, find your village. Paul, I know you got to hop off soon. Do you have any final thoughts before we
I
continue?
wish everyone the best of luck wherever you are, whatever stage of life you're at. Go be you, be awesome. I'm going to throw my email in the chat for the school. If you want to reach out, I have 20 years in the U.S. Army Reserve. I've done the active duty thing with deployments for war. I did not have World War III on my medical school bingo, but I also did not have worldwide pandemic on my medical school bingo. And I'm kind of thinking I got a bum card. But I wish everybody the best of luck. Parenting is the most amazing thing, and they will continually amaze you. So enjoy the ride. With that, I got to go work. So Ava, thank you for inviting me as part of this. Kirsty, it was so nice to meet you. Ashley, I'll talk to you later. Bye, everyone.
Thank you, Paul, for your time. Go save a life. Be safe.
Bye.
So from there, that's a awkward segue to a new question, but I'm gonna try it. I really hope I'm off mute. Okay, cool. How do you handle breastfeeding and pumping during rotations? With two hands. No, I'm kidding. Really bad joke. I apologize. So
Like this.
the key for me was having the pumps that were portable. None of those corded, none of those need to be plugged in all the darn time. I have an LV. They're amazing. I wasn't about to buy it because insurance doesn't pay for them. Fun fact, insurance only covers the corded wired ones. But the LV is amazing. I wasn't going to buy it. My husband said buy it. He was right. It has been an absolute godsend. I can pump hands-free anywhere I am, driving home from my psych rotation or in the locker room at my OBGYN rotation. There's a lot of pumping involved. Pumping's difficult, breastfeeding's difficult. They don't tell you that in the brochures, but it's difficult. But legally, if you need to pump, they have to give you time off to go pump. They can't stop you, that you can't tell you, hey, you need to finish the surgery. No, you got to go pump. You got to go pump. It also hurts if you don't. So you really stay on track. You can train your boobs to do pumping every certain number of hours, but it takes training. So you can't just hope one day that I can wait 8 hours. No, that's going to be a terrible day. So like one day you want to pump every 2 hours, and then the next 4 hours, and then 6, and build up. It is not a 2 to 8 in one go. But that's a lot of info about pumping. I don't know if you want more info. Get a lot of boob cream. Nipple cream is super useful. And you're gonna need a cooler. So don't forget to get a cooler. They have little powered coolers, little battery operated coolers, or ice packs in a lunchbox. Normally can last for about 12 hours. Boob juice is pretty resilient. So yeah, if you have any more questions about pumping, I'm your gal.
It's almost like, it sounds almost like you're dealing with it currently.
Oh my God, how'd you get that?
Exactly. So I don't even know. I just like to talk. I don't know why, because I'm chiming in on this because I never did it on rotations, but I can say that I did have to apply for it for STEP. Like, so it's a weird thing. It's really, I wouldn't say easy to get, but it's straightforward as long as you have like a doctor's note. Getting that ability to do that, it turns into an advantage for two reasons. The first is when the pandemic was going on is when I took my step, and everyone was just having impossible times on the internet. But since I qualified for this special circumstance, I had a special number I got to call. So somebody always picked up when I had to deal with scheduling issues. So that was cool. And the other thing is there was like, I think like a little like coffee symbol on my step exam where like if I had to go pump, I just like push the button and like I got to go. Of course there were timing things, but like you have to, like she said, you can't go 8 hours without it. I just looked up what you bought. Those things are amazing. They're like the little cups, right? They go in your bra. Okay, so she's right. They are amazing. I never bought one, but I wish I did. What I do recommend, two things. New parents, they usually at hospitals have like new parenting, like couple hour class. I really recommend it because they show you how crazy colored children's poop is. And like, so you don't think it's like insane that you birthed an alien, little things. But the other thing that I wanted to bring up is, oh sugar, I forgot. Oh yeah. So I had a woman teach a class while pumping, like in medical school. She was just like, this is what we got to do to like get through our day. And she was just like, you guys don't know this, but I'm pumping right now. And so it was a similar thing. So like, if you got to spend it on things like that will give you a little bit of convenience in that way, or a little bit of support, like, yeah, spend on something that you're going to be doing every day. Like, good call. All right, I will shut up now.
Multiple times a day. Multiple.
So I didn't have to deal with pumping during medical school because my kids were almost 3 when I started, but I did work full time after I had them, and I pumped for just shy of a year for the both of them. So my advice would be to talk to a lactation consultant. As soon as you deliver, they will offer to have a lactation consultant come in and talk to you. And you can even tell her your situation, that you're in medical school, you're planning on going back to rotations, anything like that. And she will help you come up with a plan that's going to work best for you, and little tips and tricks to keep your supply up and all those neat things. Also, depending on your insurance, Medela has a corded version, but it runs on batteries and cord. So you can, I had 2 of them. I kept one in my work locker and one at home. So I always had one wherever I was. And those are covered by insurance. Again, like refrigerator, cooler, something like that, on a schedule all times. You have to do that. Or as a mom, you will also beat yourself up over that because you're not supplying enough food. The guilt is never ending. So yeah, I think the biggest thing would be a lactation consultant, because this is a very specific situation and they are very experienced and will be able to help you.
I'm also gonna thank you, Ashley. Those were good points. Thank you, Kirsty. Also good points. I'm just gonna get on a soapbox for a quick second about boob juice and breastfeeding. When you give birth for the first time, you don't know what you're doing lactating. Your kid doesn't know what they're doing while lactating. It is not intuitive. There is a lot of struggling. And then when you think you're starting to get the gist of it, you switch from colostrum to boob juice. And that's a whole nother ball game. So that's a struggle in and of itself. Lots of tears involved, lots of pumping, lots of warm packs. A lot of massaging is involved. But I totally understand why most women who switch to formula will do it in the first 2 weeks. Those first 2 weeks, get all the help you can get. Also, in the first hour after giving birth, they were trying to like get the thing to attach to the boob. Sorry, the baby, potato. And I don't know what was going on in that first hour. He didn't know what was going on in that first hour. So always get the lactation consultant to come back when you're a little more with it and not as, exhausted. A lot of hospitals will allow you access to the lactation consultant even after you leave. So keep that number handy. And there's a lot of consultation online and stuff. So it's not easy. It's not intuitive. First aid does not cover it. So please get help where you need it. That is all on that.
I'm gonna follow that up with saying like it's also very different. So some people like, and like this is in no way a brag. I think like I had an easier time. I didn't need the like nipple cream, even though I had bought some. There's something called like nesting, like you buy a bunch of stuff, you start cleaning your house like crazy right before having a kid. And like I didn't ever have to use it, luckily. But my kid's about to tell us all about how she pooped. Hi. And I lost my train of thought. Oh, and if you can't for whatever reason, that's okay too. I think my mom like couldn't, and I was formula fed, and my husband's mom couldn't. He was formula fed. He's like the smartest person I've ever met. And so like everyone's gonna be fine. Also just find other ways to be kind to yourself. But it is emotional, regardless if it's easier for you or not. Everything's emotional. And so and if there's any partners here, just be nice to your partner and just tell them they're doing okay.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Now in the last 8 minutes, I'm going to open it up to any questions that the audience may have on how to do any of this. If y'all have any questions, want any details of the nitty and gritty, we are here for you. I will also be on for a few minutes after 9, so feel free to stay on and chat. So any questions, just unmute and go nuts.
I always have something to add. So while you guys are thinking, also there's a great advantage to having a kid in EM. I feel like other people have kids, I like relate to them, like attendings I've related to on that. So don't just have like think that everything we're saying is like, oh, this can go wrong, this can go wrong. It's also something like awesome, and people want to know about your kid and like I don't know, there's something cool too that you get to relate on a different level to while you're on rotations.
So I'm actually applying to pediatrics, and I feel like it was an advantage. Like a more reliable source or something. I don't know, but it really did. It made it easier. I was afraid to say anything about having kids, but no, it could be an advantage. So just every situation is different. See how it plays out for you.
I feel like some people trust you more too. When you talk about kids, they're like, have you had one? And I'm like, yeah. And they're like, oh, okay, I'm listening.
I know it helped me in my OBGYN rotation with the new moms. I'm like, you can do it. Are you sure? Yes. It is definitely a bonding experience. Y'all don't ask too many questions at once. We can't handle the excitement. Alrighty, well, if y'all want to stay on and ask any questions, you're welcome to. Otherwise, thank you for joining us for this Med Student Monday. We are happy you could listen to our woes and our success stories or survival stories, depending on which perspective you have. Feel free to email me if you have any additional questions. I think I know most people here, but otherwise I'm going to put it in the chat. And thank you most of all to our panelists who took the time out of their day and busy schedules to share their stories. So thank you, Ashley. Thank you, Kirsty. But yeah, we'll be here. Thank you all for joining us. Have a good night. Stay safe.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, ladies, so much for your time and efforts. Really appreciate it. Good luck in this match.
I know, right?
What is it, like a week or two away, 10 days?
Yeah, it's nuts. I don't know. It's it's a week or two away.
6 days.
Yeah.
6 days?
6 days.
It's crazy.
Well, 6 days to find out that somebody likes
you are safe.
but you don't know you don't know where. So I don't know which one you're counting.
I feel like between those two will be my next crazy. Like I feel like after submitting my rank list, my craziness has stopped. But like between those, you have 3 days to just burst out of craziness. But yeah.
what did you on the night that you had to certify your rank list, did you sit there and keep refreshing and just reading the paid, verified, certified over and over again? Because just in case you missed it.
Yeah. I messaged it, pictures of it to my friends, and I'm like, do I need to sign like in blood anywhere? Like, do I need to go out? Like, does this look done? And then after they all said yes, and like, since they're the class above me, they're already like in residency, I still didn't trust it. I was like, Martin, there's 4 minutes. My husband, and he's like, close the computer. Like, he's
But 4 more
do I
minutes.
need to change anything? Do I need to certify again? Yeah. What about you?
So for me, I actually certified it a week before because if I certified it too close, then my brain would have said, no, what if the internet goes out for a week or some weird thing like that? So there is no way I was touching that rank list.
Yeah, no,
The
I
week
changed it
before,
the day
day-
of. Yeah,
wow.
I was crazy. I was so crazy. Because somebody had told me, they're like, no, recertifying is super easy. And I'm like, oh. And it was. But I still like looked, ugh. If you're strong enough to know a week before, good. I feel like, you know, that feeling when you're postponing something for no reason and you're just making yourself more nervous. That was my rank list.
That's
I like
that's me
postponed
on
until
the
the last
daily.
week. Yeah.
That's
I don't
not
know why
just
I thought it
ranking.
would be different, but no, yeah. Somebody
That's
had
me
told
on
me
the
like, aren't you celebrating your birthday? And I'm like, do you mean match day? Like, because that's the most important day that I have coming up.
So
Yeah.
my twin's birthday is actually Tuesday.
Oh.
So the day
Aw.
after we find out, and then Friday is, I don't know, doomsday. I don't know how you want to refer to it as. And so their party is that weekend after. And I'm like, I'm either going to be the saddest mom ever or the happiest. I'm not sure, but now I'm going to have a house full of people who know that it was match week and they're all going to be asking me. So Lord,
Yeah.
I really hope I match
Yeah.
because I do not want to explain to all those people at my son's birthday party.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah. I'm going to add my phone number. If you need to ever just text and be like, get me out of here for 5 minutes. Yeah, that's not, no, I understand the impulse. I was going to have like a party that day and all my friends are like, no. Don't be
Yeah.
around people. Like, and they were